Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to yet another Spy Party Masters Championship 2024 cast. It's the Challenger Semifinals, the third one, and we will have facing gentlemen versus Opiwrites. And to help me explore this matchup, what better analyst to grab here but the one and only Slappy Davis. Hello. Oh, apparently they didn't hear you, Slappy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, now we can hear. Yep, that was there was a bit on my end, but to summarize, I'm very unfortunate for that, Slappy, but he is very excited to be here. Yeah, thank you
Yeah.
so much
Yeah.
for pointing that
I didn't
out.
say that. I didn't say I
Oh,
was excited to be here. Actually, no, it is. It is what I said. I'm just kidding.
wait. Like if you're not excited to be here, it's whatever. Damn, I'm joking. It's fine. With that little hiccup gone, as you can see here on the brackets, we already had two challenger semifinals concluded. With yours truly beating Guggy and C-Rams defeating Yash. And today we'll find out the first pairing for the challengers final. It's gonna be Opiwrites versus gENTleman. And I guess we'll start with gENTleman. And well, this year he did semi-right. He never really passed the quarterfinals in these stages, and if I had to analyze this play for a little bit, it would be fairly reserved. And I don't want to sound super negative, but Opiwrites has a wealth of experience compared to gENTleman. Has been in this tournament 2 times already. So it's, again, I think David versus Goliath story here. I'm not sure how you think about it. I guess you can talk about Opiwrites a little bit since you have way more history with him.
I do. Yeah, I've been able to play Opie a bunch of times, and of course, just cast him so many times, just because he's been in tournaments so many different times. And I mean, just with any player that has that long of a competitive history, you're kind of interested to see which Opie is able to show up. Um, I would say overall pretty consistent player. And then I would also say that they are very responsive to the particular match, sometimes in ways that are beneficial, sometimes in ways that aren't, can be thrown off their game. But one thing I will say about gENTleman that's I do appreciate is, like you're saying, gENTleman has been able to get pretty decently far into a lot of tournaments ever since they started coming onto the competitive scene. So one of the benefits that gENTleman does have is, while gENTleman hasn't always been able to push past into that upper echelon of competitive spy party, they've gotten a lot of experience playing them. Sometimes we'll have people that burst on the scene and then they might not actually even get to face those players that often. I feel like gENTleman's actually gotten some pretty good exposure at this point to most of the players that they'd be facing in this challengers bracket and challenge round robin. So at least there's some potential there that they won't just be like completely upended by having to play someone for the first time. You know, one of the strong competitive players for the first time. So we'll see. But you're right. Undeniably, OP would be the favorite just on history and results from recent competitions alone.
Speaking of the SMC results, the previous two, whilst never being a winner, always on the podium. Second place in the first one, and the third place on the last year. So this time he's not starting in the champions bracket as he did 2 previous times. He's starting in the challengers bracket. So we'll see how he'll fare there. There's more added pressure here since one lost game and you're out. But to lose that game or win it, we need to find out what is going to be placed, and that is the drafts for us. So, too quickly, the bans are fairly standard. Opiwrites banning Aquarium and AN, banning Aquarium and restricting Tian, rather. Two of these most hated venues personally makes sense. And gentlemen banning Redwoods and restricting Veranda. interestingly enough. I wasn't sure that Opiwrites was a veranda player. Maybe it's just a personal preference in that regard. And in order of picks, we're gonna have gentlemen picking Courtyard, and Opiwrites responding with 2 picks of his own with Ballroom and Modern, 2 of the most classic OP venues I can even think of, with Pub and Gallery, following by Gentleman. It's not the venues I would have picked for if I was Gentleman. I would say not the correct terminology. I would say not the venues I expected Gentleman to pick. And OP does indeed pick Veranda into Restrict as the last venue, with Gentleman multiplying Pub and OP, of course, multiplying Ballroom. Any surprises for you, Slack?
Um, Overall, I mean, just because there's so many picks in here, it's hard to be super surprised just because you're gonna touch on so many venues, right? So some of the stuff that I do note and I'm not entirely surprised about is that Terrace is nowhere to be found. I wasn't sure if either one of them would try to pull out something every once in a while. Maps that are kind of unpopular but just still out there, like Terrace and High Rise. Someone might try to find an angle on one of those venues and pull something out. So I would say the overall gist I have of this like just selection is pretty standard. I would say that they both expect and desire um, uh, 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 facing the opponent that they are expecting to face. They maybe have practiced versus, replays and try to get into each other's like mindsets, and they're not trying to find like at least from these picks something that's going to like completely surprise them. So I think they're fairly normal. I do think it's interesting the restrict, like you mentioned on Veranda. That would be a very unlikely to me multiply from OP, but I think that's just personal preference at that point. The ban restrict from OP is like the least surprising pair I could think of with Redwoods being banned as well.
Speaking of multipliers, just a quick tangent here. This is the 3rd Challenger semifinal in a row where Pub has been multiplied, and it's one of the in the previous SMCs I've been taking note. It's one of the rarest venues picked. It's the 3rd rarest venue picked in the previous 2 SMCs, and it's been multiplied all 3 times this. That's something that I found quite interesting doing this research, but we'll get to the Pub when we'll have sufficient drinks, I guess. But firstly, you have to make predictions. Since Slappy, your name is first, and I refuse to predict first, you're up.
I think it's good just to be straight up and say I would predict OP. And to be more granular, I would expect. Let's see. Oh, actually, let me think real quick. What are we first to in this? Oh, sorry, first to 9. I already see that
Yes,
there.
first
So first to 9. I'm gonna say OP. The over under that I would give for Gent would be 9-6. OP. So if Gentleman's able to do better than 9-6, I think that's like a really good strong result for them. 9-6 is what I'd expect, and 9-5 I would say is probably below what I would. Well, I guess I'm explicitly saying below what I would expect for them. So I would say it's definitely OP favorite, but not an unbelievable favorite. I wouldn't expect OP to go like 9-2 or something like that.
I would tend to agree with you there. I will not. I will also give this victory, well, my prediction to Opiwrites, and I don't think it's gonna be 9-6. I imagine it being like, I would say 9-4 if I had to pick a score. So it's my scoreline is gonna be 9-4. But yeah, I just think that Opiwrites has a wealth of experience compared to Gentleman, and the 2 previous SMC show that. Even the last one where he was pegged by the community to not even make out for the champions group, even going in last place, even some predictions, he still managed to take 3rd place. And even though the last tournament he looked a bit shakier, I just think that the dearth of experience that he has is gonna show up in this tournament. But with all that said, we made our predictions. We're gonna lay in bed with them, but it's time to get into the game. And we're gonna start with Courtyard, 2 games of it. Gentleman is gonna be starting as Spy, playing as Kane. Are you ready?
I am indeed.
They'll start it in 3, 2, 1, playing it.
Yeah, we'll see how like they settle up. So right now we're gonna not take control until we go to Windows. We are gonna do an immediate time ad. It is gonna be very much on screen. So it really depends on what Opie is looking at in the opening. I will say I'm a little bit worried just about that time ad because not much was happening. Ambo is very safe. Only one person went to statues and Toby was on screen. So it doesn't look like we're being highlit or any special attention's being placed on us, but that timeout actually had the potential for not working out very well, but it seems like we got away with it, so that will be to our benefit.
I'd imagine that we noticed it definitely by this point, but once you don't notice it at the start, you're always afraid to low light people when you're absolutely not sure, especially at the very start of the game. Since you could easily just like low lit the spy for absolutely no reason, and that's just a loss right there. So most of the time, you just rather play as if you
Banana
had
bread.
45. As I'm getting caught off, a banana bread with only one low light. We get real, we get 70% flirt, and even though we do have that time at, we're making progress. Rather
Banana
fast.
bread.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is a good little springboard. So I mean, this is kind of like classic for Courtyard. Is you try to get some flirts in, and then you try to get a nice contact in. Contact basically, if you like this one low light is great, but like usually just even looking for two or three people out is totally fine on Courtyard. Usually there's lots of people in conversations at any given point. But then usually the problem that you run into is if you really do flirt first and wait for a good contact, you'd be running into time compression issues, not fully timing out or having any huge issues, but the fact that you'd be 45 seconds further in, you only have like a minute and a half left to finish everything up. So what we'll do with that extra time, we'll of course see, but right now we're still in that kind of standard zone where we're just collecting what we need.
Yeah, and as the big question on this 4 of X courtyard is the fourth mission is pretty much always gonna have contact, seduce, and inspect, but that fourth mission is always the hardest one to find. Most of the time, it's purloin or bug. It's super hard to get away with a fuss soft tail finish this in here and not get shot for it ever. Mission target doesn't play ball.
Yeah, sometimes like this general playstyle right now is I guess like the most kind of like standard kind of like spy positioning you can get into. But we haven't really been looking a lot for like particular opportunities here. We are just gonna go for oh no, we're not. We're not gonna go for that bug. So okay, we are spinning our camera a little bit as gentlemen. So I'm curious if they thought that was a mistake not to go for that bug. I do think that Opie would have been able to see it just because they were lined up pretty well for it. But Opie very much seeing that there was this bug path that their highlight on Papa Danger took, and that they, I do think, know that the bug did not happen. And we are going to be setting up for potentially a fingerprint now that Ambassador has left this briefcase here. We do not go for it, and instead we are going to wait that out. Well, we do just need to do our seduction target, so I wonder if we're going to try to hop in here, do something on the way over. No. That's a second pass by Ambassador where we don't take a bug. I do think it probably wouldn't have worked out, but we are just kind of running low on time at this point. What are we actually going to do?
And we finally finished Flirt. The seduction target has been eluding us for quite some time. But what is the last mission? Where Purloin is look no, it's not looking at the cards. It looks like it's gonna be a last second swap. No, instead, are we gonna go to yeah, we're gonna go and do a green time ad. We just get off in time. And
We gotta fake. We gotta fake a swap or something here, right? Like there's so few options that you can do in here, but like we gotta just do a normal swap.
yeah, we're doing
and
a
then
swap.
hope that someone else. Oh, it is taking a while. It is taking a while. Okay, I mean, Opie is able to kind of like figure out a little bit of what's going on here. Y'all that are watching here probably know the kind of situation that we're in there. But we hit a green time ad right as 0 seconds goes off. if you've had a lot of experience with SpyParty, you know the options for what's going to happen are pretty limited, right? You are looking for purloin, green purloin, green swamp, green time ad. That's pretty much it. Um, and so what you're going to be looking at very closely is, okay, who could actually be in any of those scenarios, right? So right as the timer hits 0, drink is finished taking from a twin there. Can't be purloin. Um, Boots did not have an opportunity yet to get that green swap. Can't be Boots. It could be Duke, so that's why Duke retains the highlight. Is maybe they hit a green swap. But instead, what we do is we go and swap a different statue, which would have had to have been. Was there even anybody there? I don't think anyone was there for a really long time, so
No,
I
it
don't think
definitely
Boots would have
wasn't.
bought something that. Yeah. So we do go for this play just for confusion, just to see kind of like what happens there because who knows. It doesn't quite work out for us, but it is actually like it means that Opie's not off his game, right? The fact that he just doesn't make a straight up mistake because I think he basically parsed out that situation very well in 10 seconds.
Yeah, I guess it's a nice last attempt from gentlemen, but unfortunately, just the Opiwrites is good enough to control the party and correctly parse out that indeed it was only us who could have actually got into mission 1 cooldown. Opiwrites up 1-0, but in truly to get ahead, he needs to get a spy win, and he'll try to do that on this venue as sorry in 3, 2, 1, playing it.
Yeah, I mean, like what could have worked out for him. This just is me kind of like playing devil's advocate for that game. Is maybe in the 2 times.
Oh,
Real
that's a
quick, are we gonna
bug!
go for a bug here? We are indeed, and it is basically invisible. So the bright now it has to be on bug path because that is like that's the arm is completely just buried in there. It's not a particular like technically impressive bug. It just timing wise, it's good where you know that the arm is going to be hidden the entire time. So this has to be an instinct alone for this padding here. Sari is cramming herself into 2 tight spaces during this section. So depending on how gentleman actually responds to those kinds of things, he may or may not be in trouble. But I just based on past experiences, I don't think he's a conversation watcher like that. I don't know. What do you think?
I would tend to agree with you. I think Opera's got this bug completely clean. A slight misrotation from gentlemen and a good opportunistic bug attempt from OP. I think we just got with that clean. Sometimes you don't need a technical bug where it's 5 texts within 1. Sometimes you only need is good timing and good positioning, and Opiwrites got that in spades.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you and I both 100% expect exactly what's going to happen the rest of this thing. We're going to flirt, we're going to inspect, we're going to contact. There's nothing going to be special about the rest of this game. It is going to be 100% just down to that. I expect him to be fairly aggressive with those flirts too, because not only is he going to be using the fact that we're all in on this bug, we're also just going to be, pressing just to make sure that nothing bad can happen to us. So Opie's going to be laser focused on that. And look at that. Double agent and seduction target are in the same conversation. We can even go cross conversation for this last flirt. I do think, yep, there is. Oh, okay. See, this is the reason why Opie was pressing forward a little bit on trying to get things done a little bit early. And I don't think it's going to be a huge
Enemy in the
problem.
red.
I mean, we were probably just going to go for it after this, but Opie would have preferred, of course, to just be in Mission 1 Countdown already. The fact that, by the way, we're not being shot here should make Opie feel like he's basically got this game in the bag once he gets that last flirt.
Yeah, only 2 reels though. The only 2 I would say the only 3 highlights is us, Seek, and Queen here. Seek doesn't even have a reel, but a highlight for someone else. We didn't highlight for statues or seduction. It wasn't statues yet, not highlights. So that's gonna be an interesting thing moving forward. But it doesn't matter if Opiwrites gets this done. No shot from Gentleman, and Opiwrites sweeps the venue choice of Gentleman, going up 2-0 on Courtyard. On the back of
Yeah.
basically that bug.
Oh yeah, 100% on the back of that bug. And actually, to follow up something we were talking about in the first game, there's this pretty normal shape of a game to the spy side of Courtyard. Where the other thing that Opie was trying to avoid was not, of course, only like trying to avoid timing out, but actually trying to avoid the part of the game where, hey, why isn't anything happening? It is unlike Opie to try to do something in just like basically what happened in Gentleman's game, to wait until the very end, do a green time ad, and then do like a last second like swap play or something like that. Very un-Opie like, and actually very unlike a lot of the kind of like Spies approach to Courtyard. But if we go too far into the sub 30-second territory of the game and just nothing's happening, that might have set alarm bells off that Gentleman might have tried to recover from. I don't think anything probably would have still happened there, but it's the one opportunity I think we had for recovery in that. But quick plays just kind of deny that on OP's side.
Quick start from Opie, going to up on the Gentleman's venue. Let's see if Gentleman can strike back on Opiwrites maps of choice, and it's the signature Ballroom. Gentleman is Seek. 3, 2, 1, playing it.
And of course, signature map venue is underselling it. I don't think there is any player in SpyParty associated with one map more than Opiwrites is associated with Ballroom. We all know it.
Let's maybe
We all
counter
expect
that.
it.
Counter that. Yerand and Veranda. It even has his own name of Yeranda.
There was Yeranda and Veranda, it is true, but I would venture to guess that might have been true also more at the time. Yeranda has also just been out of the scene for a little bit, so I feel like it's also faded a little bit. But I do think that right now, I think that as far as like players just like that have like honed in and like focused on just been very vocal about it. Because the thing is, it's actually kind of hard to specialize in Ballroom. I think Ballroom is a great map. There's lots of little things, but there's not like really consistent tech that you can do on Ballroom because the map cover is always moving, right? You can kind of get a flavor for the kind of like I always think of like weather patterns of like, oh, so like right now the front conversations are the ones with people in them, and that means that the distance between those conversation circles and the statues means if the sniper's on the right hand side of the normal wide part of the map, sometimes there's some it's difficult to comprehend how far people are from the statues there. If ambassadors walking around there, if you're doing bugs there,
Banana
that just makes it a
bread.
little bit trickier if everyone's in a far side. While I was saying that, banana bread does go off. It is a scattered banana bread for Ballroom, but lots of people are in. So not a ton of lowlights, but only 2 conversations real.
I wonder if you even track that at this point. But I guess we do. Opiwrites is. I let get one who's real, which does involve us, as we do have an unexpected 74% flirt alongside that contact. I do imagine would want to finish flirt rather soon. Minute 20 left. It maybe if we had that seduce done, I would imagine insect swap play coming up. But if we don't do a purloin, no, seduction doesn't come to us. It's a bit unfortunate. You're gonna have to run towards her. No, we don't. We're gonna go to statues. This is gonna be completing us. Are we gonna try to go inspect swap here and then flirt? Or maybe a last second bug or purloin? That's the big tough question you have to ask yourself. Indeed, we are swapping. It is a green swap. Let's see how Opiwrites will react.
So almost certainly, we're just going to be booking it for our seduction target here. I think it is going to be a pretty quick grab. It might be Taft, in fact. We'll see. Oh, actually, it's Smallman.
No!
Wait, wait. Why did they get pulled? Why is no one going? Okay, it's going to be Irish. This is actually this actually might work out perfectly because this is so long for this call to happen. There's a fake during the time. Opie actually has to be looking at this, but Opie's gonna be watching us on this side because we're actually, okay, now Opie might have seen the swap. That almost worked. That really, truly almost worked. Because,
that was an insane ending.
It really was because honestly, if Ambassador was close to us, I think we win that game. Like Ambassador was just perfectly safe at that point. Low light next to Ambassador. 2 low lights next to Ambassador. No coverage needed there. We just had to cover Purloin. If we had to cover anything else, I think that swap was going to be low on our priorities list of things to actually look at because of how long that call was. Um, Honestly, okay, so
I want to see at this
why did
replay.
Smallman?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Smallman just walked right next to this pad and just decided, no, it's not me.
yeah, like what? Like it's like I don't see any collisions there. So like I'll commit this to like anyone who wants to put this in clips and vids and explain this to me because like there's no person is in his way, right? Like there is nothing in between Smallman and that statue pad, and it is very obviously that Smallman is going to that statue pad, right? So I just don't understand what changed. What possibly could have changed? Briefcase is not in the mix. Um, yeah, I have no clue. I will learn something whenever someone explains why Smallman didn't go for that statue. I will say one thing though is I am curious to see if Opie saw that because what would have been actually even better is if Smallman bailed earlier because that bailout from Smallman actually should be kind of noticeable to Opie if they're watching because they're like, hey, why did Smallman do that? Like, why is Smallman pathing like that? And it just calls attention to Smallman. They might have been actually watching Smallman more closely, but then the fake banana bread actually eliminated Smallman. This is a fascinating little game right here. It's unfortunate for gentlemen that it goes through like this. You know what's funny? Another thing, if gentlemen rejected that drink, I also think there was a possibility that gentlemen would have won because Opie actually had to check for Purloin real quick there, and if Opie was waiting for the next reject instead of checking his corners, so to speak, maybe there's another chance in there. Really close, really interesting game.
Yeah, we're gonna have to inspect that afterwards. But yeah, Opiwrites goes up 3-0. But even with that strangeness in hand, let's see if he can continue his role as Red Dress. 3, 2, 1, playing it.
I'm seeing in chat someone point out that Spawn was actually too far away. So I'm wondering if okay, we are gonna have another time at this time from Opie in the first part of the match. It is gonna be a white test, but I don't think we're in any danger here of getting caught. We are staring down the middle of the map, so I think Opie's gonna get away with this completely clean. One interesting little thing here, though, if gentleman cares about blue bookcase, um, I I mean, I guess we'd have to be paying too much attention to red dress. This is outside of the normal zone of time in which you would see an AI go to blue bookcase that close to someone. Um, I don't think gentleman cares about that, but and maybe it's still early enough in the game that maybe it was still you kind of credit red dress with being potential time of chaos. But I just want to note that just because it's fun and every once in a while people care about that as sniper.
I guess you only stop doing those things when the sniper actually notices or catches you. As the same with the white helmet. I think we got away with that. You have that blue booking pad, and knowing OP and based on this play, I don't imagine this going back into the into the blue booking. This is gonna go into the green one.
We'll see. Like, I think that's going to depend on how Opie feels about the cover in this party, because Opie really likes action test microfilm on Ballroom. Although, hey, you are right. He's going to go straight from case to case. Um, and we are indeed going to get this green time. I guess we didn't, because it's like Opie just likes doing transfers so much on Ballroom with action test for finding cover. But I think you're right, where we just identified a potential gap in the coverage for the book.
A white contact. I think we wanted to do a rush into a green purloin, but with this white contact, I imagine that yeah, we are gonna pull off not gonna pull the trigger on the purloin. We are gonna get a highlight for it. I don't think it was long enough to be outside of the etiquette rules, though. Quickly summarize, if you call Toby and you ignore him for more than 6 seconds, it is considered breaking etiquette, something AIs never do. But I don't think that this was the case. I think it's a highlight for something else. I'm not sure.
Yeah, but you're 100% right. Like a highlight on the spy is never a good sign for the spy. But the particularity of that highlight and consideration means it kind of feels like we're near the top of the list. And in fact, we're actually seeing some low lights go off here as the game has progressed on without a specific causal event. So it does feel like we're narrowing in on the 3 highlights that we have so far. And it just feels like red dress has just been the center of our screen so much. It could just be some residual suspicion of that
Oh,
transfer,
there's the
but we'll see.
bug.
There is a bug.
No reaction from
It
Opie.
Ah, uh, I feel like Jen actually had a really good angle on that. I
Apparently
I
not. Opiwrites goes up
I
4-0.
I was actually I really liked that. I guess we were really paying attention to Toby, and I guess we actually didn't rotate around as much as I thought, because I thought that we were specifically rotating around to just kind of get coverage on Ambassador for that part. But we were looking at Toby, and the hand was there, but it was only there for like a split second. Um, and we don't seem to have much consideration of her even after that. So I guess we weren't really that high on our suspect list. So I mean, it's not looking good for gentlemen because Opie has played well so far, but I wouldn't say that Opie has played unbeatably well so far. And that I think Opie coming in as a favorite, gentleman has to actually play up to Opie's standard games for sure, and needs to be catching stuff like that.
Yeah, maybe some nerves, maybe some. Well, I want to say cold feet at the start of this start of this match, rather. And Opiwrites perfectly exploiting it thus far, 4-0 up. With 2 more games on Ballroom, gentlemen as Alice still looking for this first game. 3, 2, 1, playing it.
And hopefully they did get something out of that near win on their spy game. I think that would have been a big boon to them because it is frustrating, I'm sure, for gentlemen to be dropping sniper games to them because their sniper is good. Um, but they did almost pick up that spy win, just a few seconds off from that. So it has been fairly close in the individual games, but gentlemen is going to have to be taking some bigger stabs with their gameplay so far. I think you actually nailed it from the very beginning where you talked about gentlemen's play as conservative, and that can be great if your nerves are going off you're playing in the biggest, most prestigious tournament that SpyParty currently has, the SMC. And if you're in there and you are already a conservative player, sometimes your nerves might make you try to deviate from your normal play, take more risks, take earlier shots, highlight more, low light more, anything in there. But so far, it seems like it
Oh
actually
dear,
has made
white purloin.
more. Oh, there we go, though. There's something at least. It does feel like OP is immediately on top of it, though. So I do think that this is at least be a highlight, or at least be in this chain.
Yeah, highlights are coming out, lowlights coming out. We were one of the first 2 highlights. No other changes thus far. I think that this may have been a bit of ill-timed purloin as well, but a white test with not that big of a chain, and Opera is catching this. I think gentleman is a dead spy walking. It's only a matter of time.
Yeah, no, I agree. Right now, this feels like the risk that we can take to help our odds in this match are honestly just doing like a really well put together, like, let's say, timeout. So maybe we at least position ourselves to finish flirt if it comes kind of naturally. And then, like, if we get some sort of miracle bug opportunity or something like that, then we play it out like this. But I don't think we should actually go for if I don't think we should actually play out to like a normal finish. I think we can play conservative, maybe get the benefit of a timeout. There actually are a bunch of people out there. OP did not get a good look at the fade, even though I think, at least I don't think they did. But they did get a really good sense of the chain. And it is an early purloin, so there is lots of stuff that can happen after the fact that draws OP's attention and makes them worried about potential bugs or flirts or something like that. They are going to have to, of course, contact in that sequence at some point.
Oh, we do immediate contact and we bail. Operice was all over that though. Even highlight the real double agent right beforehand. And with yet another win, Operites is still moving on 5-0.
Yeah, and actually, I don't hate that play. I do think that that gentlemen recognized the position they were in. They took a big risk, right? So, of course, the viewers probably know this, but you have a trade off. You kind of push yourselves towards two outcomes when you do a banana split, right? You are either probably going to get a lot more suspicion and potentially get shot, as we were there, or we get rewarded with a huge boon of a low light. Um, uh, 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 so we did recognize that we had to do something, and I do applaud that from gentlemen. So that's not necessarily a bad game, even though it did confirm it. Um, it might have worked out better to do the other thing, but you gotta do stuff like that sometimes. So I don't hate that game from gentlemen.
Yeah, I don't hate that game either. Just maybe a slightly ill-timed purloin, but either case, Opiwrites 5-0 up. Will the sweep continue, or will gentlemen finally get on the board? We shall see in 3, 2, 1. Playing it.
Yeah, and I have to say, so far, like right now, um, uh, uh, ooh, we're not gonna get that flirt that we wanted. We actually didn't even do anything there at that window. Like we didn't go for the time at this time, even though we started there or anything like that. We really wanted to get that little flirt at the pad there, so that's gonna throw our timing off ever so slightly. Um, but we'll see what we have to do there. This is a good. So we're Smallman on Ballroom. This is going to be a good indication of how Opie's just approaching this match, where right now, I feel like Opie is playing pretty comfortably. I don't think they're having to play anything too specific or really try to show off any tech here. And Opie, at this point with a 5-0 lead, might even try to protect any tech that they've been working on for the round robin stage. If they feel comfortable and if comfortable is working, they can just keep doing that because they're not tipping their hand at anything towards potential future matches, like such as yourself, who may be watching this and maybe trying to get an angle on Opie if they end up being your opponent.
Yes, definitely. We are gonna go find our seduction target, so it looks like we are gonna be trying to complete missions. Maybe down and flirt. The no OP, even though I would say this is slow progress, Opiwrites is one of the players who advocates and does himself can just turn up the speed up to 11 at any given moment. So even though having almost half the time gone only one flirt, I'm not as worried for mission completions for OP as for say any other.
Yeah, and like as you say, Opie has a good sense of the kinds of things where if we do fall behind on time, a good sense of the time costs associated with a bunch of missions. Just relatively good at just kind of parsing out. Okay, what are the things we can reliably get done? We are going to contact here. Pretty good contact. The one thing that is unfortunate for Opie is that oh, we do have a green purloin in here. So this is actually going to be a really good test of gentlemen. This should be a game that gentlemen wins. It is not completely straightforward, but this is the kind of opportunity that they should be able to capitalize on because they did catch that there was only one conversation with real. How does gentlemen react? There's the bug. We got to be reacting soon because it doesn't seem like we've been reacting to this activity.
Now
And
we
it'll be
only noticed the
finishing.
purloin. Now we only noticed the purloins happened. 4 seconds left. There's no shot coming off. Only lowlights, and Opiwrites wins yet another spy game.
And what's such a bummer about that is again, like that was a good opportunity because like there actually, if there was this is not a bad this is definitely this is the most interesting and spicy game from Opie so far, easily, right? So what we do have going on here is that if there was another suspected double agent in either of those conversation circles, there was just so much going on in there that we would have to like settle like, do we low light the other conversation circle? What do we do with this information? But because gentleman does correctly identify, hey, there's this only one conversation with real, which by the way, double agent had just left. And gentleman pounces on this and is able to identify these people and actually even sees when there's the moment after the reject and the leave by Smallman. I was like, okay, that actually could have gone really bad for us where we might not even had a real chance just because it was in the mix of stuff. But gentleman had an in and just didn't quite get on top of it. I, of course, I would be worried just statistically at this point, but I do think that gentlemen's not playing up to their normal standards in this current set.
I do agree, and also I think that last 20 seconds I think showed nerves or indecisiveness because we were just our snipers just standing still and almost seemingly not knowing what to look at. Even we didn't even look if the purloin was taken once the initial the purloin taker actually happened. So I just think we're just froze. We just froze over. We just didn't know what to do. And once we realized that the Portland had happened, it was too late. There's 4 seconds mission cooldown with 4 seconds left. So yeah, I think gentleman is still showing the nerves, and hopefully, for his sake at least, he will shake them off, and he needs to sooner than later. For now, we're on Modern, yet another OP pick. This time is Irish in 3, 2, 1, playing it.
I will say, at the very least, for Gentleman hasn't like just thrown any games yet, but they're just consistently playing below the margin that they need to win a bunch of these games. And like there's a very clear gap that they would need to fill in during this spot. So I do think they're playing a little bit below. Oh, okay, that's terrible. uh, uh,
Did we get
that's really
flare
bad for us.
paired? Did we really get?
Yeah.
Oh.
I I think so. Well, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But that's just a terrible. That's not even really like OP that much. I think it also just been like might have been the late joint in between two people, because the thing is like we could actually be paired with either Red Dress or I actually even forget who the other person was there. Might have been Duke or something. We're paired potentially with two people there, and that was kind of the we kind of created that bunching that happened there. Is that it could have been a flirt pair between us and either the two people next to us, or either those two people and us, and we created this bunching effect by the way that we put ourselves in there. So even though it might have been more, let's say, it might have given more information about which of the two that we would have been paired with if we, say, stood on the inside of Red Dress, where we wouldn't be standing in between two people. That would confirm of the two which one is actually paired with if we cared to do that. I do think it would have drawn less attention to this grouping. That said, after all is said and done, it does seem like the highlights have faded. So after all that, I think he was just making sure no green time ads happened.
Are we red flirted? Or did we wanted to send the purloin there to our SC? I imagine we wanted to do a purloin, but we accidentally did a red flirt.
Yeah, I can't tell what we would have been trying to do. So sometimes what's fun to do is if you red flirt and then you purloin after it, two people leave the conversation, and then it's kind of like it obscures the purloin. But of course we didn't do that, so it does seem like that was of course unintentional. We might have been actually even hoping for a flirt and then send immediately after, then join them at bar or something like that. The delegate does expire, so we are a little bit pressed for time now.
Yeah, we are grabbing his blue bookcase. I transfer. Oh, cancelled yet again. Oh, that is of super forceful gem who's already strapped for time. And with that layout flirt, with potentially flirt not being on the cards anymore, gonna be yet another hardtail. Fingerprints are pretty much off the table as well with minute 15 left.
And one thing that is certain is this conversation only. Okay, this conversation is useless. This is actually the most I've been worried for gentlemen in any particular game. Of we're doing nothing during that entire time. We're already behind. We do nothing with it except for potentially like launder our book a bit, and that's it. So I mean, maybe there's a world in which not even talking. I think in that conversation circle, that we do get caught for something out here. So I do think it's not going to end up working out for
Surely it's
us.
for transfer. I think this is the transfer highlight.
Yeah, I would imagine so, just because I don't think that we would have been. I don't think like Duke, for example.
Oh,
We're
it's
just
a
gonna like.
white swap, white test swap.
I mean, it is interesting. We don't inspect there, so it could be potentially a okay, but it's just too late in the game. Like at this point, we might even be worried that we're actually done with something. Like maybe bugged somehow when Ambassador is coming by. Um, So I at the beginning of this, I said like gentleman has not been playing all that badly. This is the first game I would say like actually this game really got away from us. I don't think that gentleman has played awfully. I just think they played below par. This is the first one where I'm actually like, oh, this is that you absolutely have to clean up and do something with it and not just feel like you're frozen to move through. Again, I don't want to harp on him too much because I think Gentleman is an excellent player and a great member of the community, but I do think that they just have to hammer in and just like force themselves to do a little bit more with the opportunity they got.
Yeah, just think of again like at second or third game, we're just leave ourselves no time to do anything. We're trying to do a direct transfer into a white swap. We surely wanted a green swap, but still a direct transfer, which is almost certainly caught into a swap, and two more missions on top of that. If against a player like OP is just not gonna pass, or pass almost ever, I would say, and that's basically it. And with 7-0 up, OP just needs two more games to secure full sweep. Let's see if gentlemen can get on the board before we move to halftime, which might be almost even full time. Starting in 3, 2, 1, playing it.
Yeah, at this point, like it's also I will say I have not been in the position of like sweeping a player in a bad day. Like I've just like not. It just hasn't really happened to me. Even when players that I have played have bad days, it's usually kind of close. And those are the ones where I'll just like sometimes win stuff, but I usually don't win convincingly. So I actually don't know what I would do if I had a huge lead on someone.
Oh,
I
that's
mean,
a
I would
white
assume you just
swap.
keep doing it. Well, there you go. That's something you could do. You could just get discount Smallman, go and white swap, and then just kind of like just put additional pressure on here. Interesting little move here. And then I do think that we're just going to basically rush this at this point. Opie's got stuff to do. Wants to just get this match done. And actually, this might end up being the shortest match of SMC, just time wise, if things keep playing out the way they do.
Oh, now we zoomed in on the swap. Now we noticed it. And what's the reaction? I quite literally saw zoom in on, and we do get a highlight. So I think that gentleman, not knowing who did the swap, but knowing that it was someone in that back conversation.
This
And
is interesting because I don't think we get this highlight unless we were in this conversation. So I think Smallman got a particular highlight here, and then Wheels got a highlight as well. It could be that we actually did see Wheels there earlier, but another potential reason why Smallman and Wheels got highlight is they're the two kind of people that could sneak out, do a swap, and then return to conversation circle. So I'm curious if we would have still had this highlight if we went to a different conversation.
that's true. But gentleman maybe catches a break, does highlight the spy, and potentially narrows it down to what looks like 7 people. Not lowlining the rest of them, but no other highlights coming out.
And I do think that so far, if what we are supposing might be happening is happening, this is actually a good response, just in general, for people to kind of react to. Is like if a swap happens that you don't see at all, and you are, let's say you're just doing reflexive inspect highlights. There's a reason you didn't see someone there. And so you should be thinking about what is the reason that I wouldn't have seen someone there. And like, for example, with highlighting a Wheels to Smallman, one of the reasons is they could have actually just used the cover, swapped it, got in there, and got in without me actually really even recognizing that someone went there at all. So that's just a good little recovery mechanism that gentlemen potentially seeing, depending on how this rest of this plays out, could come back with.
Yeah, no other highlights to speak of, so I think he just thinks that okay, he's gonna look at these 8 suspects and seeing okay who has been the most active out of all of them, and thus far, it had to think that it's us. But as the sniper is zoomed into the ambassador, we do finish up the flirt here. So contact left. Double agent is in conversation. Oh, we're getting flashed on. 50's on.
It would be a shame if we get flashed on and not actually shot. So, you know, why are we going to this conversation circle? It looks like we're chasing a seduction target, but
Or
we're
just leave
not.
immediately.
Oh, are we faking something? Are we faking a red test flirt? Are we pretending?
Doesn't
Okay.
matter what we're pretending.
Well, it looks like we're
Gentleman's all over us. And
so
finally
we're
gets...
pretending a purloin.
Yeah, I think
I
so.
guess. Interesting. So we were faking a purloin. I was like, okay, we could be faking a red flirt off of Smallman or just a send. So it looks like we were faking a send because we ended up going to the bar. Interesting choice there. Um, of like, okay, so why wouldn't we just do contact? Opie must have felt some pressure from gentlemen in some way because it is unlike Opie, unless Opie is just trying to explore some potential new strategies and whatnot. For us not to take the path of least resistance and do that. So Opie must have felt like the swap had been seen and that we were avoiding something like contact specifically. So interesting way to finish, and good on gentlemen for being able to recover from that because it was looking real bad for a second there.
Yeah, we just got away with the swap completely clean. Well, I would say completely clean. It wasn't entirely clean, but we weren't sure who it was, and sometimes that's all you need. And with those first games, 8 games up, we are moving on to halftime, but it's not looking good for gentlemen, if I had to admit. Down
Yeah,
six
absolutely
games.
not.
Down 6 games, and thus far not playing up to par compared to OP, both in terms of sniper and spy. I think the sniper was a tad bit rattled. Just I would say rattled, and sometimes it's just a bit slow. We just from the laser movement and inactivity, it seems that again, I don't want to harp on too long, but it seems the cold feet are really in for gentlemen, and just against an aggressive spy that again like Opie, I just that doesn't work out. The scoreline reflects it.
Yeah, absolutely. The first few games didn't seem as difficult. It seemed like there was a just a play gap between the two of them, and then it felt like that gap started to widen. Unfortunately for gentlemen who needed to, of course, close that gap. I will say at least there'll be a little bit of potential, just reverse in momentum for gentlemen in here. Unfortunately, I don't feel like Opie is the kind of player that is likely to feel that much psychological pressure from something like this. So it would be very much on gentlemen to get up to Opie's level at this point and not hope for something like a reversal in OP for OP to play sloppy or something like this. I do think that OP is just going to try to play as clearly as possible from here on out and force gentlemen to do it. And so it's all on gentlemen to try to reverse the scenario before we continue on the second half of this set.
And to continue, since I don't really can't really add much to the what you just said, Slappy, we are gonna go to that second half of the set, and Sam is gonna be the smaller venue. Is gonna be pub. This is gentleman's double. Let's see how he's going to fare playing as general. Starting in 3, 2, 1, playing it.
Yeah, and pub is going to be an interesting test for gentlemen in the fact that okay. This is an interesting choice that we make here. We do 2 watch checks. Second one is a white time ad. See, what's strange to me there is there's something to be said for if you check your watch and then nothing happens, and then sniper looks away, they won't be looking for like a green timer or something like that. But then what I would feel like if I saw 2 watch checks is it might be someone trying to add time twice, and then I might look
Banana
for a
bread.
green time ad later just to
Early
notice them.
banana breads.
Very early.
5 lowlights coming off of that. Both conversation circles had SDA, so quite a few people with reels, but in that regard, we had very other content with a lot of suspects neutralized. Not something I'm a big fan of. It is pub. Sometimes getting a contact is quite hard, but I'm not sure if we need it to rush that.
So here's the interesting thing. Um, so there are there's this double-edged sword of specifically the combination of a time ad and an early banana bread. So the double-edged sword of the time ad plus early banana bread is that if you are hoping to apply early pressure from that banana bread, and then there's this time ad, there could be one, either suspects get generated from the banana bread, either from reels or just by the general suspicion of the party overall, or that you're just a little bit more worried about like a finish at any point for the rest of the
Banana
game.
bread.
And the fact that that timeline is protracted, we are going to throw another fake in here. This I don't like. But it is going to be used as cover for something, so I might have to hold on to that because maybe this work out here. This is an interesting follow-up to this because this is basically against the theory that I was going to present here, which is if you early contact banana bread, sometimes just random stuff can happen with the people that are in there because you added time, and they can go to statues, they could just create some pressure points, and there can just be some moments for which there might be some
Delegate play does
interesting.
expire, but we are going to inspect here. And that's going to be pushing a cooldown if we don't dare to shoot. And that's going to be a test on Opie's flirt tracking. Does gentleman have the flirt? It doesn't seem that he has. And gentleman finally gets one on the board, playing his second one on the board, rather. The first one as Spy on pub.
Yeah, this was an interesting one. I'm looking through the like the theory of the case. So we make the specific choice to delegate to our seduction target and to join them at bar, right? So we do the fake. Oh, honestly, maybe that was that fake a mistake? Maybe no, it couldn't have been. Well, actually, no, it could have been. We might have intended for it to be a nah, it feels intentional. I'm just going to assume it was not a mistake. So we fake here. During the moment after the fake, we delegate and leave at the same time, and then we get to rejoin our seduction target at bar. So then we get to get more flirt credit in there. One thing that we also do is we have a drink in our hand, so we're going to be after uh, uh, Disney in the sequence of bar takers, which is good because we were already low on time. It would have been a shame for us to request beforehand and become the reason why it
The
would have timed
delegate
out ahead of time.
expires though before our seduction target is able to get to it, and quite a ways as well. And we just immediately go on for bar 2 statues. And with a minute left, even with that time at OP thinks that General still needs one more talk to finish that flirt, and just assumes that the spy wouldn't finish in this exact way. But wrong assumption for Opiwrites, and gentleman gets the second one on the board. And he needs to get more of them and continue doing so, because this gap is still big. Let's see if Opie is able to respond in kind, playing as Blink Twin. In 3, 2, 1, playing it.
And so that first game also is going to be one of the ones that should be gettable for gentlemen, because one of the other things that we are going to have an immediate flirt and bail in here. So far, Opie has not been punished with early game etiquette breaks, so we'll see if anything changes there, but I doubt it. We are also going to be spending time next to Ambassador and doing nothing here. I don't know how intentional it was that we actually wanted to violate Ambassador space to get them moving around. We might have just ended up in this conversation circle, but just an interesting move there. If you do the early flirt thing, go do something with your time while you're waiting for it to reset. Go make Ambassador a problem. I kind of don't. I don't mind it at all, especially if it doesn't look like you do anything with it. But what gentleman did do was play against the type that he'd set so far in this set, which is that he was finishing at 45 seconds left after the timeout. If he didn't have that timeout, it would have been like 0 seconds left. And Opie might have been like, hey, I am maybe suspicious of General, but so far, gentleman has not shown themselves to be aggressive enough to really merit me shooting if I'm not sure, so I'm going to wait. So interesting back and forth adjustments that the players have been making here potentially.
agreed. And minute 20 left, 90% of the floor, so basically any of the floor would do. We are delegating, but we do the reject, so we. This is gonna be a test for gentlemen to see if we are able to suss out that actually what's happened. And indeed, we are delegating to Disney. It's early on, but the bar is very full. A lot of people in it. I'm not sure this is gonna be even off in time.
Yeah, and Opie wanted to join this large bar to finish up Flirt. I think he might have done something on the corner there. But before we have that opportunity, Smallman is going to bail out here. This is gonna be close, I think, on the take. I think we're next in line here. Let's see if it. Okay, we do finish Flirt. Is this gonna come off in time? I think it looks like it is going to. And then
No,
Gentleman's
just
gonna have.
expired.
Oh no! There it is. Oh God. Okay, so it ends up being kind of funnily similar.
Oh dear, it's a red swap.
Red swap.
Bling, bling, bling. It's a call you're dead. And gentleman swoops the first part of pub. I want to see how close that was. Until from the delegate Purloin. Let's see.
Yeah, it looks like the thing is like I'm actually I would assume
this is what expired right as Disney was taking a drink.
Right, which is interesting because I don't even know if I knew exactly when the Purloin officially happens. I guess it's the second that the drink comes up, because there's a few moments that if I had to get asked just in general, hey, when does the Purloin actually start? I'd be like, well, I don't know if it's the bottom of the reach animation or if it's the moment the drink hits hand. I think it makes sense that it's like as soon as you can actually see the
I've
drink
imagined
moving.
it's this frame exactly where the glass is already in the guest goer's hand, and when the delegate Purloin expires, it's a couple of milliseconds, I would say frames beforehand. It's 0.2 of a second off. And the last Opiwrites shaking his camera, he couldn't believe it, and the end of it was also just as comical. We see a red swap, and that's enough for gentlemen to shoot.
And what's funny about this, something I like about Delegate, and I guess this is specifically Delegate, is it's kind of funny that it's kind of written into the stars, so to speak, where after Opie sends that Delegate, like even if Opie had sent that Delegate, like, it's not like if Opie had sent that Delegate 2/10 of a second earlier, it would have changed the outcome, right? It was going to be that way as long as the sequence held up. So as long as he didn't allow someone else to be in there, it was just this thing that was going to play out in a certain way, right? So like little micro things about how far Toby has to walk between the certain guests, how long each guest makes their little decision thing, which I don't know if it's super exact. It's just funny that these little things were already kind of like gonna happen one way or the other, and there's nothing that Opie could have done after the send in like the little fuzzy amount of time before and after the send that could have changed it. It's just fascinating when this comes out this way.
Yeah, a bit of a break for gentlemen, but he does continue winning. But he does need to continue winning. Kind of a repeat there. But still, 3-7 down. Let's see if he can continue to do it. Playing as Rocker in 3, 2, 1, playing it.
Yeah, it'd be something to completely sweep like a venue like Pub. So I'll just say that Pub seems to be working out okay. Like, now, of course, the last games are a little bit interesting, in the sense that they both felt like they could have gone either way. It didn't feel like either player was like completely lost for what to do in them. But it does seem like Gentleman is playing much better on Pub. So it's just cool to see players get like a second wind from their selected map.
Again, gentleman is taking this slowly, and thus far it has not paid off in the set. It's 3 missions still can be completed relatively fast. Just when you have to do one more mission that is not floored, it's always way more tough. As we do agree, we're gonna go to our seduction target. We missed the conversation pad, but I don't think it was noticed. It was fine. Never mind.
No, I think he's yeah. I was saying that one. I think you might have had the same thought as me. As like, well, Opie doesn't look at conversations that closely, but I do think that there's just like a part of SpyParty players' brains after a certain point for looking for people missing conversations. Like, if like you just see it, whether you like it or not, and then you have to slow yourself down and figure out, hey, is there a reason that happened? It seems like I don't think Opie, there's no way for Opie to like have anticipated that, right? Like we expect that there'll be like a missed spot or something like that, but it's just the kind of thing that we just try to just avoid. I will say, so for players that they do that kind of often and they want to know what they should do here, they should walk away from the conversation circle if you miss it. Like maybe if there's like total cover, there's so many people and the laser's on the other side of the map, yeah, maybe nudge yourself in there. But it's just so spy-like to try to nudge yourself in there, and it actually doesn't look subtle because usually if you miss the conversation, you're not pointed in the direction of the conversation circle center. And what happens is you nudge yourself in and your whole body turns. It looks super awkward. You get used to seeing it as sniper. So it's just a bummer there. That's unfortunate for gentlemen. It's a small mistake, and it just kind of ends their momentum that they had.
I mean, but quite a few small mistakes end up with the score 3-8. Against a player like of this caliber, you don't need to make massive mistakes to, I would say, drop games, but to lose games. And Opiwrites is more than capable to capitalize even on your small ones. And he's already on match point, playing as playing twin to see if he can secure himself into the Challengers final in 3, 2, 1, playing it.
And that spot right there, that conversation circle, that spot does you do actually
For highlights? Immediately?
I wonder if that was for a bug setup. We were passing near and back. Oh no, this is a twin differentiation highlight probably, and it's going to end up sticking though because we're going to go to statues. But I don't think it was for bug because that seemed to have come off before the bug opportunity really happened.
Oh, it's a green swap.
Interesting. It might even go to our twin here, just depending on when the call happens. I'm trying to remember.
Oh, we're trying to. I think we're trying to delay this.
We are trying to delay this. It's interesting. I'm curious of how much attention we get gets called on us when there's like two twins next to each other. Just looks weird, you know. So does gentleman know this play or not? That's basically it, right? So it doesn't end up being
the SDA picks up the statue before us.
They do. And there's
but we took the purloin though. What? What?
Yeah. It's a play though. Like so it can cause confusion, and then you just need 10 seconds. You just need 10 seconds to cause confusion, and then it just can work out. So this is probably a gambit that Opie has thrown into like the pub tournament and whatnot. It's just like an opportunistic thing. It honestly, this is not the worst version of it. Like this could have worked. 100% could have worked.
Yeah, it's just it could have worked. We were immediately shot for the purloin. It's just unfortunate, but even if we don't get immediately shot for the purloin, the SDA comes to pick up the statue, and
yeah.
Even if we don't get shot for this purloin, the swap would have quite a lot of time to parse that swap potentially. But yeah, again, a bit unfortunate for Opiwrites with the party luck, but that gentleman stays alive and moves on to the next venue, which is going to be Gallery, and playing as Kane, needing a spy win to survive. Starting in 3, 1, playing it.
All right, so Gallery, we're going to be back into a little bit more of the kind of situations that have worked out better for Opie so far. So gentlemen had found found a 3-1 success on pub. Um, and now we're going to be switching back to something that does resemble more of the ballroom 4-0 that Opie had gotten through. So definitely back into Opie's court a little bit more, but maybe gentleman has gotten a little bit of confidence having gone through a pub venue where he was able to grab a little bit of a lead, at least just on that venue itself, while still being kind of far behind in general.
We decide not to do anything in this book. We're gonna pretty quickly put this back into blue. Our suggestion target's out front, and gentleman has been fairly slow to completing flirt, and it's gonna be even harder in this particular venue. If you're not too flirting on gallery, it is a very rough place to get 3 flirts.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so we're gonna. That's an interesting little choice right there. I don't think that Opie is gonna reward that, but it does at least give us a chance to maybe potentially get a light. I don't know how intentional it is. We're doing lots of little things here. So we did a micro adjustment on pad. I don't know if that was trying to set up for potential bug or if that was just to do something like maybe go for a low light. This is really weird. We have gone for a statue and lost a race to get the statue. I think we should have gone for that bug. It looks like we get credit with it anyways.
I just
That's
because
like
we're
what you
Kane.
do.
Yeah, that's just because you're Kane, and it's one of the few characters where standing on gallery side pad, and if ambassador walks up, you cannot see the arm, so you just credit that character. So, for example, if we were like, of course, it's a very bad example, Wheels, you wouldn't get that highlight since you would see if that arm is on. But since you can't see it as Kane, as we have a contact coming out, you just get that credit even though you didn't do it.
Yeah, and that's I mean, like again, it would have been unfortunate if we weren't trying to angle for that bug and we got credit for a potential bug that we didn't do. But just at that point, that's kind of what you do as Kane in that position. So right now, it looks like there's at least partial credit given to us just for the opportunity. So we might not be dead here. Like if there was something else going on, we're like lots of lowlights were going off or something like that. Um, Interesting opportunity here is that we already have the bug credit. Probably we could try to bug this conversation, but I don't think it's going to happen for
I
fast
think we're too
release.
far away.
Yeah, we've been twitching around a little bit. Okay, so right, so before that happened, we did a bunch of interesting things in a row there, which was we lost a race to pick up statue, we micro adjusted in a painting
Oh,
pad, and then we
Opiwrites is
lost a
all
briefcase
over
race.
us. Oh, I'm very. So we just did a flirt at the statues there and immediately leave. I think that's. Now we do a walking bug. It is not seen though. They're completely invisible. But 30 seconds left, and Opiwrites has had enough. Takes the shot onto gentleman and takes the set 9-4 and moves on to the Challengers Finals.
Yeah, so at first it looked like both of our predictions were going to be way off, and it was going to be like 9-2 or something like that, which is actually what I said I didn't think was going to happen. Specifically, I said like 9-2. But Gentleman was at least able to pull it back to, I think, your prediction, which was 9-4. Or maybe you said that 9-5, but it was right around that space. So your prediction ends up being very true. Um, at least Gentleman came back and brought it back a little bit closer, of course, because uh, it was looking real rough there for a bit. But this is much more reasonable than we were trending earlier on in the set.
Yeah, considering we started 7-0, that is a reasonable finish from gentlemen, but unfortunately too slow of a start initially, and Opiwrites is not known for just throwing away games, especially from a 7-0 lead. And indeed, he will be moving on to the bracket stage of the. Here we go. Let's put him there. Indeed, yours truly is going to be playing Opiwrites, and we still have one more challenger semifinal, Lev versus Roxo. That's going to be happening next week, or rather, casted next week. And afterwards, we only have the challengers finals, and afterwards, we will be seeing the best of the best in this champions round robin. Any last words when you're looking to this bracket?
No, I'm very curious about like basically it does feel like after this bracket stage, it feels much more consistent about like the consistent where it's like, oh, any players could win against each other. Like I will stop being surprised at all after that first round, right? Because while there was probably some spots where there's favorites, oh, I guess we still have to your point, Lev Roxo. Uh, you would expect Lev to win that fairly well. Lev has been strong recently. Roxo's a great player, but Lev is in that conversation. It just feels like they belong in that top. What would that be? Top eight? Or sorry, no, that'd be top 10 with the challengers so far. That just feels right. So after this point, we're going to stop having super strong favorites, right? It's more that we're going to start seeing who is in shape. And that's what we'll kind of like find out here. From this set, I would say that Opie played really well, but I don't think Opie was really pressured. So I don't think we fully saw where Opie is at competitively yet because Opie didn't really need to pull out anything super crazy or anything like that. I think their just level of standard play was good enough to get them the win today. So honestly, we'll see versus you. Good luck playing. You'll see if he's in shape or not. But like for example, your match versus Opie, I would not be surprised with either one of you winning. Um, C Rams versus let's say Lev, I would not be surprised with either one of them winning. And then when it gets to the round robin, I would just say feel like whoever is the best condition at this point. There are still some favorites who have run recent tournaments that you would expect are in the best condition, but it really does matter about what kind of shape they're in rather than like they're just long-term competitive history.
I
I'll
cannot
go
put
to a
it
limb,
better.
and I don't think it's going to be Mini this year. But I mean, I've predicted that 2 years in a row now that Mini wasn't going to win in the last thing. But I don't think Mini is in the same shape that they've normally been in. But they could come back and surprise us.
I want to say drawing into group of death with Fast Gene Effect and Fire Lord Ethan is not gonna help, and especially with one more challenger coming up. With all of that said, it is time to close this stream. Thank you very much for everyone for watching. Thank you, Slappy, for joining and casting. It was always been a pleasure.
Of course. Thank you so much for having us. And I'm really just looking forward to this whole tournament. It's always such a treat.
And we shall see you next time. But until then, fare thee well.